I cannot recommend Dave Allen's YouTube channel enough. I genuinely can't recommend it. It's a great insight. Now, I know certain fighters. I know O'Hara Davis many years ago now was the kind of first guy to start doing YouTube videos, but he was very inconsistent with it. I don't think he's uploaded for a long time. But Dave Allen is the first boxer who has made a YouTube channel, is consistent with it, and he offers such great insight into really what happens behind the scenes in boxing, how certain fights get made, sparring, everything. It really is. If you really want to hear it from someone who's been there, seen it, and done it, I cannot recommend Dave Allen's YouTube channel enough. It's got about 8,500 subscribers, and it's just such a good listen. Now, he did a video today, and again, I'd recommend you go and have a listen to it, okay? I'm going to elaborate a bit on what he said and give my 2 cents on it. Everything he says in it, I tend to agree with. He talked about, because obviously this week we have Joshua versus Dubois. There's a lot of intrigue about this fight. There's a lot of talk about this fight. We're all, and I'm in the middle of getting my prediction video out, we're all intrigued as to see how it goes. Now, many people, myself included, would have Anthony Joshua down as the favourite. I think that goes without saying. All right, he's the more experienced, he's the more proven. Daniel Dubois, although his last 2 performances have been good, he has had some questionable performances on top of that, and he stylistically, you look at him and you think, good lord, he's so easy to hit. What could happen? But at the same time, you look at him and some of the attributes he brings to the table, and you think, how might Joshua react to that? Because this is the biggest step up he's had since Alexander Usyk. You know, this is the first real, proper, legit top 10 heavyweight, especially a big puncher too, since Alexander Usyk, and arguably the biggest puncher since Vladimir Klitschko that he has fought. Now, Dave Allen in this particular video goes over both guys' punching power. Now, Dave Allen has not fought neither of them in a professional ring, but he has sparred several rounds with both. He sparred many rounds with Joshua and Dubois. And it's of his opinion that out of the two, Daniel Dubois is the harder puncher. And it's very interesting what Dave Allen was saying. He said that Daniel Dubois' left jab is one of the hardest shots he's been hit with. And he says that Daniel Dubois' left jab is arguably his hardest shot. Said it's a phenomenal, and you can see it's a phenomenal jab. There's a lot of power, you can see that. But very interesting, Daniel Dubois is quite a big puncher with the right hand. He's hurt a lot of guys with the right hand. He's stopped a lot of guys with the right hand. But he doesn't really speak too highly. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but he's not saying he's feather-fisted with the right hand. But he said that the power from Dubois is more in his left hand. The jabs and the left hook, they carry a lot of power as opposed to the right hand. More power on the left side than on the right side for Daniel Dubois, which is interesting. It does make you wonder, is Dubois one of these natural left-handers who fights orthodox? So you often hear fighters like that where they are naturally left-handed, so in theory you would think they would fight out of the southpaw stance, the left hand being their backhand or strong hand, but they actually fight out of the orthodox stance, so that jab is a proper boom piston like jab. It's essentially a backhand in your face, but obviously it's not traveling as far. It's your rangefinder, it's your jab. I wonder, is that the case with Dubois? It's just an interesting thought that Allen is saying that it's the left hand that carries the most power with Dubois, when I would have thought it would have been the right. I know his jab is very good, but I would have thought there would have been some good power in the right hand. He said in his opinion out of the two, and bear in mind he acknowledges the fact that when he sparred Anthony Joshua, Joshua was still training with Robin McCracken at the time. And, in those spars, Allen said himself he was in survival mode. He could see the shots coming. He said that in terms of what he was being hit with, it wasn't anything that he couldn't handle, you know. Now, when he was training with Rob McCracken, I don't think Joshua was hitting as hard as he is now. I think that Ben Davison has brought out some punching power in Anthony Joshua. I think he's punching a lot more correctly now. Not that he wasn't punching correctly before, he was, but I think he's really getting maximum power into those shots. And it's very interesting. Dave Allen said two things. One, he said that Rob McCracken said it, that Joshua is a different beast when he puts 10-ounce gloves on. And obviously in sparring, you're wearing 18-ounce. You're wearing 18-ounce, 16 to 18-ounce gloves. You're not wearing any lighter than that. So when Joshua puts the 8 ounce on, he's probably hitting a lot harder. He could be working with technique in the spars. They do that as well. So that was an interesting little bit of info that Dave Allen gave about that. He said that in his opinion, yes, Daniel Dubois is the harder puncher out of the two, certainly from the rounds he shared with both men. However, he said that although Dubois is the harder puncher, Anthony Joshua is the sharper of the two. And given the choice, he would much rather be a sharper puncher than a heavy concussive puncher. Much rather that. And very simply, as he says, I can get out of the way of a big shot. If you're a sharp puncher, you are accurate, you're breaking them down, and ultimately, if you're very, very sharp, you're eventually going to hit them with a shot they don't see. And he puts it in layman's terms, the most basic as you can. He said if you got a stationary heavy bag and you were measuring the punch power, Dubois would hit the bag, in his opinion, harder than Anthony Joshua. But that's irrelevant when it comes to a fight. And it is. I don't doubt, based upon the eye test, that that Daniel Dubois is the harder puncher. I wouldn't doubt it. And to be honest with you, I would say it's probably more likely that he is the harder puncher of the two. Probably more likely. I would say Joshua was hitting the plenty of hard now. So it could be up for debate. But yeah, if someone sparred him recently and they said their opinion Dubois is the harder puncher, it wouldn't surprise me. But as Alan said, sharpness is what you really want. Having good punching power is one thing. Listen, there are journeymen. Ask Sergey Kovalev. Ask Andre Ward. Ask Adonis Stevenson how hard a journeyman by the name of Darnell Boot hits. Go and look him up on BoxRec. Darnell Boot, a journeyman. I think he's got a losing record. He fought Sergey Kovalev over 8 rounds way back. I think it was 2011. On BoxRec, that's listed as a split decision win for Sergey Kovalev. He was officially down once in that fight. Darnell Boot has said on several occasions that he had Kovalev down multiple times in that fight. Andre Ward, that fight is on YouTube. I think it was Ward's 4th or 5th fight. It was down at middleweight. And bear in mind, he fought Kovalev at light heavy. That was down at middleweight. And he dropped Andre Ward way harder than Sergey Kovalev did in their first fight. And he knocked out Adonis Stevenson in the 6th round. There's vague footage of that, but you can see it. Now, Kovalev and Adonis Stevenson, Ward never rematched him. Didn't need to, really, to be honest with you. But both those guys rematched Darnell Boot years later. And they both dispatched him with relative ease. Darnell Boot's a journeyman. But I guarantee you ask them how hard does he hit, they'll tell you he hits flipping hard. Flipping hard. And you see some of the knockouts he does have. He looks to be a big puncher. But what good did that do him in his career? When you listen to fighters who've shared the ring with other respective fighters, when you see some of the fighters they've been in there with, and then you hear who was the biggest puncher, and they mention an obscure journeyman or someone you wouldn't think of, you know, you got to remember that Dave Allen has been in there with numerous big punchers in sparring and obviously in the pro games, the likes of David Price. He puts Chisora as number 1 in terms of punching power, and Alexander Usyk does as well. There's some punching power is a great attribute to have. It's phenomenal. Who doesn't want punching power? If you have a fighter, you want to have punching power. It makes life easier for you. It can make fights easier, but it's not the be all and end all. Is Alexander Usyk the biggest puncher at heavyweight? No, of course he's not. He's a fair puncher. I mean, you wouldn't want to stand in front of him. But is he a bigger puncher than Daniel Dubois? No. Is he a bigger puncher than Anthony Joshua? No. What does he have in common with those guys? He beat both of them. Or both guys have in common. They both lost to Alexander Usyk. But is he a bigger puncher than either of them? No, he's not. Not in my opinion. He beat them. It's not the be all and end all. It certainly isn't. It's nice as to have, as I said, but it isn't the be all and end all. The best example would be if you look at heavyweight boxing, the 2 Klitschkos, Vladimir and Vitaly. I love Vitaly Klitschko. A warrior, true and true. What a fighter. Loved him. He was not as talented as Vladimir. He wasn't. Very talented fighter was Vitaly, but he wasn't as talented as Vladimir, and he wasn't a bigger puncher. Who has the bigger knockout ratio? It's Vitaly. Who was the harder puncher of the two? People who fought and sparred them both, they'll tell you Vladimir. And he was the more explosive. But Vitaly was way more aggressive than Vladimir for one. Vladimir, as you saw in the Eddie Chambers fight, he knocked Eddie Chambers out in the dying seconds for 12th round when Emmanuel Stewart was giving him the reading in the corner for going to almost going the distance and not letting his hands go. The minute he let his hands go, the fight was over. Vladimir was too cautious. Vitaly wasn't, and he was sharp. He wasn't feather fisted, certainly not, but he would break those guys down and stop them. And that's what Dave Allen is referring to. Sharpness is what you want. As he said, you can get out of the way of a big shot if you see it coming, but sharpness, that's what you want. And Joshua, in his opinion, is by far and away the sharper puncher. It's a very interesting video. I would recommend wholeheartedly that you give it a watch. Let me know your thoughts. 100%, I'll even leave a link in the comment section below. 100% you go and watch that video. It was phenomenal. I would say it was a phenomenal. Like, it's basically, Dave Allen does what I do. Camera, phone, boom. I have a stand. I don't think he does. But essentially one and the same. But just the insight he gives is brilliant to listen to. So I'd recommend you go and watch it. Have a listen there. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button if you could. And subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. Peace.